Abel, and today I'm going to be continuing my CSS tutorial of tips and tricks. Well, today I'm going to be talking about some div tags and styling that, and we're going to make a cute little website. Use a cute word very fairly because it's going to be a small website, okay? We're going to make a small little website styled somewhat similar to my website, theblueable.com. Check it out, link in the description. And, well, yeah, so let's continue. The first thing we need to do is we need to set up a div tag. And we'll just set that to the ID equals to :content. And I mean colon, I meant quotes, but whatever. We'll put a closing div tag. And, well, that's about it. That's all we need is in the beginning. Next we need to, because we used the ID, we need to use a hash, and we're just going to go content, open curly, close curly. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the background color. So I'm just going to go background hyphen color, colon, semicolon. Now I'm just going to set this to a nice dark gray. Well, hexadecimal 222 code. It allows the content to be the main focus and not the style. And then, once we have our background color, then we need to set a width, and a height. Oops. EGHT. Colon, semicolon, and we'll just set it to 350 px. Sorry, I meant 350 px. Colon, semicolon. And we'll just do the same for this one. So now we have a square. If we preview this, save, preview, you see we have our square there. Now the next part, which is going to be sort of a lengthy part, that's going to do very little other than center it, you may think. The reason why we do this is to move this square up. You see how there's a border around it? There's a border around what your code actually is. See this little line right here? That goes all across the top, and it also goes all across the left and all across the right if we had it going full. I want to get rid of that. I want it to go right up into the top. Now, how I'm going to get rid of that is I'm going to set the position to absolute. There's probably an easier way, or there's definitely harder ways to do this, but this is how I would do it. So first we're going to set a position tag, if I could find where N is on my keyboard. And then I'm going to go colon, semicolon, like normal. And I'm just going to put absolute. And then we're just going to set it to top, colon, 0, semicolon, which is going to put it right at the top. Here, I'll show you. Boom. And now back to the code, we're just going to put, we're going to set the left, so move from the left, 50%. Semicolon, 50%. Which if we look at here, it will center this line right here. If I make this bigger, this line right here is centered. But that's not what we want. We want that to be centered. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the margin left. So the left margin, hyphen, left, colon, semicolon. And then we're just going to make it half the size of the box. So we're going to go minus, then half, which is 175, half of 350 pixels. Save. And that's just going to center it. So now that we have our centered box, there we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add some rounding on it. Now, if I could use the generic box, the generic border radius, but then it would put a radius on every single side, which I do not want. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a bottom radius. Pretty simple. So to do that, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put a radius on the bottom. To do that, the easiest would just be border hyphen bottom hyphen radius. And then I'll just go equal, colon, quote, and then we'll just go, I would say 25, 15 pixels, maybe a little bit too much, but it will help you display it in the previewing. Now, note that this does not work, and this is because we have given it only something really annoying with CSS is you have to be very specific. We can either put a radius around every single corner, or individually, we have to go right, hyphen, and we cannot just say bottom, which I think is very annoying, and they should fix that. See how there's a radius there now? I'm actually going to make it 20 for the creation of this on the tutorial. And I'm going to just copy and paste this. And now I want to make it compatible with older versions of Firefox. Now this should work on all versions of Google Chrome and most browsers except for, actually I think the IE9 even supports it, but I want to make this compatible with the older versions of Mozilla Firefox. Keyword Mozilla. So we're going to put Moz hyphen, and then another thing we need to do is we just have to move the border right, and just put it right at the end, right after the radius. We'll put the hyphen, remove the hyphen over there. So now this is the section that makes that. So I'm sure you can assume, if you're really have any brain at all or any programming experience, that the easiest way to just do this is just change that to left and, you know, make another one. Left, save, refresh, and then we have both our little two rounding at the bottom. And I think that looks fairly nice. Now, you gotta remember, the sizes I'm using are for scaling and previewing. Now, that doesn't really make sense in the real world because you wouldn't have a website that is this small, but it works for the showing of this. So the next thing I want to do is I want to add a shadow on it, you know, make it stand out a little bit. So to do that, what I'm going to add is I'm going to add a box shadow. And I'm also going to use an inset shadow because it's going to be inset. It's pretty simple. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to type out box shadow. Oh, forgot the hyphen. Box shadow. Actually, is there a W? Yeah, no, there's not a W. Sorry, my spelling is not the best in the world. I'll just put a colon and a semicolon, and then I'm going to type out inset, and then we're going to have 0, 0, because we don't want it to move at all. And then we're going to have 5 pixels, and then that's going to blur it. And just for you know, the first 0 is how many pixels you want the shadow to move over left, and the next 0 is how many pixels you want it to move up. So we want it to be the exact same thing but inset, so we're just going to leave it like that. And then the next one is color, and because it's a shadow, we want it to be black. So if I say this, we have a shadow, but it's kind of hard to see. You can probably notice the difference on yours, but over the web video, it probably is barely noticeable. So the thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change the background color on the body, and I'm going to change it to white, and see what it will look like that. Now the shadow is a little bit more available, but we don't want that. We want it to be black. We want the background to be black. So one thing we can do is we can have this black like we had before. We can save that. And then we can just make this a little bit higher, blur. So we'll put this a 8 pixel blur. Then we'll make this a little bit lighter. Like maybe I can go maybe about a 35. Oh, sorry. A 333. Save that. It's brighter. The black is more. Actually, I think this is too much blur. Save. Sometimes you have to do this and try what looks. You know what? This works. It's there. You can see it. I'm actually going to lower it a little bit. But, you know, the point of it is there, and it just makes things look more crisp. Now, for about, I'm going to draw, you know what? I'm going to continue a little bit more. I'm going to put a title in here. So, now that we're in the div tag, let's add a title. So, when I'm talking about title, I'm not talking about the one that occurs over here. We already have one of those. But one actually on the page. So, we're going to use an H1 tag. Now, I have a lot of problems with H1 tags because they add random positioning things into them. So, let's add, we're just going to call this Gobleable CSS Tut. So now I'm just going to save this and add it in. So now it's there. Now let's say we wanted to change the color of all the font in this. We're going to go color, colon, semicolon. We're going to change it to white. Save. Space. Now I'm not going to make all the text align, which should just be text hyphen align, colon, semicolon, and in between their center. I'm not going to do that because there's going to be stuff in here that I don't want to be centered. But if I want to just center this, I could go into here and I could put it in the H1 style tag, or I could just go easily and just go center, come over here, and then close the center. Now, this is where I'm going to leave it off for today. I'm going to be continuing this tutorial later on. Now, in the next tutorial series, I may be starting up another tutorial series on JavaScript. Look out for that. But this is my CSS tutorial, and this is the end of number 2.